really believe it's important that developers have some good graphic skills since everything is so visual these days, and particularly in mobile apps. Photoshop is by far the industry standard, and I have a video series called Photoshop Practicum that's in production, and I invite you to check that out and learn how to use Photoshop if you're not already using Photoshop. There's a lot of bells and whistles. It's not an easy program to learn, but a couple things you should know how to do in terms of working with images in .NET MAUI. You should be able to resize an image, be able to crop an image, and add text to an image. So in the Photoshop Practicum, I do a video here on resizing images, resizing canvases, and cropping. I would invite you to look at that video. But let me jump over to Photoshop. So I have 3 images here. First one is of a lion, and then I have an image of a tiger and an image of a bear. And we want to put these into a mobile app in .NET MAUI, but we need to resize these. So this particular image right now is, if you look at the bottom here, is 1024 by 768. I want it to be 600 pixels wide. So one thing I can do is go to the image menu and choose image size, and I get this dialog, and there's a little link here with the width and the height, and that's right now connected so that if I change one, the other changes proportionally. If I just type in 600 and click OK, now my image is 600 by 450. So that's one way I can resize an image. I'm going to undo that. I can also take the marquee tool. I can choose up here at the top a style. I want to do a fixed size, 600 for the width, and for the height, let's make it 400. And then I can click and I get the marching ants. Now in this case, I'm going to get a subset of my image, or in essence cropping it. But the nice thing here is I can actually move those marching ants. I'm just using the arrow keys to do that, but I could also grab it and just move it to where I want. So I can decide how I want to frame this image, and then I can go to the image menu and choose crop. I'm going to undo that, and one more way to do this, I'm going to do a Control D to deselect the marching ants. There's a crop tool here, and the crop tool, I can also specify a size if I want. So I've got 600 by 600 here. So maybe you want a square image to fit your mobile app. So right now it's a square. It's not 600 by 600 pixels. It is simply width and height proportions. So I'm going to press the Enter key. And now my image is 600 by 600. So it resized it with the proportions that were selected. I'll undo that. Now I'm going to show you another way that I like to do this for images. Because usually I have a group of images that I want to use in an application. So I'm going to choose File, New, and let's say we want 600 by 600 in terms of our image. So I'm going to make this into pixels as far as a measurement. I'm going to take 600 by 600. And the resolution here really doesn't matter, but let's just go 72. Okay, so there now is my new image, my new document. And I'm going to take that lion and just pull it down a little bit so it's in its own window. And since it's still the active window, let's get rid of those crop marks. And so in the layers panel, I'm going to grab that image, I'm going to drag it over to my new document. And there I can position it to where I want it. I can also choose transform scale, and maybe I want to scale it down a little bit and then position it where I want it. Now the nice thing is it comes in its own layer. I'm just going to name that layer lion, and I could export that image out as a PNG or a JPEG. But I want to use several images in my document, so I'm going to pull another one here, which is my tiger. And I'm basically going to do the same thing. I'm going to drag the tiger image over to my new document. It's going to come in as a new layer. And we can kind of get these out of the way. I'm going to go Edit, Transform, again Scale. If you grab a corner, it'll scale proportionally within Photoshop. Now, it's not high enough for my application, so I do need to make this bigger. One thing you don't want to do is you never want to stretch your images to distort them. So I wouldn't want to stretch this to fit the size. I simply want to, in essence, crop it to fit the size. So I'm going to go back to Edit, Transform, Scale. Let's make sure that it fits the height of the image. And then I can position it and get it to where I really like it to be. I'll press the Enter key. Let's do one more. So this one is of a bear. Again, I'm going to drag it over and position the image where I want it. Now, I usually don't recommend making things larger in Photoshop or starting with a smaller file and making it larger. Photoshop does a fairly decent job of that though, so you can get away with it. Choose Edit, Transform, Scale. I could get away with making it a little bit bigger. Not recommended, but as I said, Photoshop does a pretty good job of it. Now the other thing you should be able to do is to add text into your image. So I'm going to take the Type tool, with the horizontal Type tool, I'm going to get a color here of basically white or almost white. I'm going to click and I can see then the size of my text. It's a little bit too big. I'm going to bring this down considerably. Let's go maybe 18 point. And I'm just going to paste in some text I've already copied onto the clipboard. And that is the attribution of where this photo came from. The photo is from Katmai National Park and Preserve. And then I can take those two layers and I can actually combine them. I can merge those layers together. And now I've got my bear, and I can change the name of the layer to bear. And maybe on the tiger I'd want to also add in some text. So I can hide the bear, come into the tiger. And I'm going to type in photo by S. Tahiri, and that's coming from Wikipedia or Wikimedia Commons, either one. Okay, and then I can take those two layers and merge those. And let's call this one tiger. Now I probably want to make those lowercase since we want images that are named lowercase. What I can do is I can choose each layer and go to File, Save As, and I can save that then as a PNG or JPEG and rename it there. And then just hide that layer, do the next one, save it, and then save the last one. Another option I can do here is I can go to the File menu, go to Export, and I can say Layers to Files, and I can choose a destination of where I want these images to go. So my Pictures folder, maybe I want to create a new folder here. I'll just call it Animals. Say OK. And I can choose to export all these. I can give it a file prename if I want. Maybe I want this to say animal underscore. That'd be my prefix. And it's going to add the name of the layer as far as lion, tiger, and bear. Now again, I probably want to make those lowercase so we don't have an issue with Android. But just to demonstrate this, I can also choose to do the visible layers only. So I could turn the background off. I'd want to do that before I open up this dialog. But let's go ahead and run just so you can see what happens here. So it's running through an automated script and saving each of those files out. I'm told it was successful. If I go back to my Pictures folder and go into Animals, there are those images, and it gave out also a 4-digit number before each. So I have animal underscore 000 underscore bear, animal 0001 underscore tiger, and then animal 002 lion. So that's one advantage of doing these as layers. You can easily export those, and then I can bring those into my project. That's just a really quick look at Photoshop. I encourage you to learn Photoshop as a developer if you don't already know it. But for all of the projects that we do in this course, I will provide the graphics for you. If you just jumped into this video, you can see all the videos from the .NET MAUI Practicum playlist by clicking on the image in the lower right. And if you'd like to be alerted to future videos I create, you can click my picture in the top right to subscribe to the channel.